everybody,
everyone.
It's time for so dignified, and mine was like so enthusiastic.
It's one of those days.
Anyway, it's time for a new possibility pile video.
That is
because
true.
It's a new month.
It's a new month, definitely, and new months mean new possibilities. We're working on that.
We're always working on that.
Anyway,
I'm gonna kick things off. The first thing I'm gonna mention real quick is that I will obviously be reading something for the book club that I do with my sisters and my cousin. We just haven't decided on it yet, although although there is a contender in mind. Future Alexa here to tell you we did in fact decide to read Know My Name, which is by Chanel Miller. It was my sister Mel's turn to pick this month. Their next book that I need to mention, which you guys have seen me talk about before, is another Night Huntress book, and this actually happens to be the very last one.
It's called at night.
It's called Up From the Grave. This is by Janine Frost, and I am looking forward to it. I just don't know what it's about yet because I don't really look up the next book in the series before I read it, just because, you know, suspense.
I postulate a guess. She hunts at night from up the grave. Huh? No? Okay, moving on. I tried.
Moving on, my friend Bethany from the channel Beautifully Bookish Bethany, she'll be linked down below. She's hosting 2 read-alongs starting September, and I decided I would join her for both of them. So the first one is the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin, which has appeared on my possibility pile I think twice already this year, but I feel like it's better that I read it with someone else, just because I feel like it's the kind of story that requires, you know, discussion. I don't know a lot about what it's about, but I know that a lot of people are very impressed.
Yeah, it's a good premise too.
Story, and plus I think all 3 books won Hugo Awards. So that's definitely saying something, and I have wanted to read N.K. Jemisin, so this seemed like a good opportunity to do that. But I will also be rereading something because she decided to do a reread of the series as well, and that is Fellowship of the Ring, which is the first book in the Lord of the Rings series.
I did not think that's what that was.
This cover is a special one designed by Nerdy Ink, and I love it. I have not read the Fellowship of the Ring for years and years now, and the one thing that will never ever be forgotten about this book is that is the one book that actually put me to sleep when I first tried to read it. There's just a part in the center that took me a longer time to like get through, just because it was
Tolkien does tend to want to stick to like several pages just for like descriptions of like
it's true
trees and chairs and,
but I feel like the reader I am now will actually probably be able to take that in a little better, so I'm looking forward to it very much.
I aspire to be the reader you are now.
Why, thanks.
Reader I am now.
I am also reading a bunch of books, well, reading and rereading a bunch of books with my friend Danica. So the first one is the one we're doing for like sort of our buddy reads every month. It's The Atlas 6, which is by Olivia Blake. I don't know anything about this one except that it involves secret societies and a competition between people who are trying to claim a place in the secret society.
Sure,
That's basically it. But I know it's a very, very popular new title that a lot of people have been raving about. So I am curious to see how I'm going to feel about it as well. I will also be continuing our Throne of Glass reread. I am currently, while we're filming this, somewhere in the middle of Crown of Midnight. But September is Air of Fire month, which is very exciting. It's the 3rd book in the Throne of Glass series. Cannot wait to revisit it because one of my favorite characters finally makes an appearance in this book. That is true. So, very exciting. And I will also be rereading Truth Witch, which is by Susan Dennard. It's the first book in the Witchland series, and I'm very much looking forward to this as well. It's been a couple of years since I reread it. I'm very excited. It's about 2 best friends, Safi and Isolde, and they kind of find themselves on a rip-roaring adventure, not of their own volition, because of certain things that happen at the very beginning of this book. So I'm kind of looking forward to rereading that and continuing on with the series, especially since the 4th book, Witch Shadow, came out earlier this year, and I kind of wanted to tackle that before the end of the year as well. So those are all the things that I'm kind of like reading with other people. I think it's time for me to take a break, and it can be your turn. I am on a rereading binge as well, starting, but certainly not limited to, Aragon. I'm just gonna dip my toes into this book. It's been a while. Aragon was a huge deal when it came out because Christopher Paolini was what, like 18, 19 at the time? When it originally?
I think.
Something like that.
Thereabouts.
He was very young.
Yeah, he was definitely in his teens.
Yes.
And as somebody who was just like devouring as many Animorphs books as he could at the time, I was like fascinated, like, wow, this guy. And back then I sort of had not so serious dreams of being a writer. Yeah. But I definitely had like plots and stuff, so I'm like, this guy's so young, this is so cool, we can do this. Did not do it. But it was great for what it was, and I want to see how it's aged.
Yeah, same.
It's very exciting. I still remember the best parts of it that I feel will be the best parts of it still to this day. But it's a good old tale that brought me to tears at one point towards the 4th book. So we'll see if the journey is worth the walking once again.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Which leads me to this other thing that I kind of really just want to reread again. And I bring up these 2 books because they're technically different parts of this. Like, they're technically not the same series, but they are set in the same universe. And I love when a series, you know, draws you in, and then thousands of years later, it's still the same world with some allusion to the previous world that it came from. And it is The Hound of Rowan and Imperium. So the Tapestry series by Henry Neff, and then out of nowhere, suddenly Imperium, which is set, I want to say, a couple of thousand, like 1,000-ish, several hundred, I don't know, but it's a huge time jump from the events of the first sort of like 5 books of Tapestry. And I just love it. It's sort of loosely based on some elements of, I want to say, Irish myths.
Celtic?
Definitely. Well, it's more the Tuatha De Danann, and so heavily that range of myths. And then everything else is just up for grabs. And it's your typical magic school type story until suddenly it's really not. In a violent shift in tone, it becomes something completely different, and I cannot wait to sort of like dip my hands and dive head first into this thing, because that's the order. You just sort of like see if the water's not going to kill you, then you just...
Yep, pretty much.
Alright,
more books that I plan to read. I'm going to be continuing a series. It was a little over-ambitious for me to think that I could finish the entire trilogy in August, so I decided to like spread them out over the next couple of months. But I will be reading Cushiel's Justice by Jacqueline Carey. This is the 2nd book in the 2nd trilogy of the Cushiel series. I really like the 1st book, even though there were a lot of things that made me want to pull some hair out. Not mine, preferably someone else's. But it was really good. It was really good, and it was really interesting to be back in a familiar world, but with a different character that you're following. So I am interested to see where his story is going to go now that we're here in the 2nd book, although I have scary feelings about this one because Mackie just looked at me with that face and that's not promising.
hurts like a fist.
I also had a list of books that I had friends pick out for me to read, or books that friends had recommended for me. So the next book I'm going to be reading is The Paris Seamstress, which is by Natasha Lester, and this is a book that my friend Rachel from Hello Jelly has wanted me to read forever. So it is another World War II historical fiction novel, and it says on the back, it spans generations, crosses oceans, and proves just how much two young women are willing to sacrifice for love and family. So I guess there's a present day timeline and a timeline in the past, and I'm curious to see how that all blends together, but also I'm mostly just a sucker for the fact that part of it is set in Paris, so
that's fair.
Speaking of rereads, actually there's another book that I intend to reread this month, and that's Nevermore, which is The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend, and I'm very excited to do this. This book is basically about Morgan Crow. She's supposed to die by her 11th birthday, but she instead gets rescued by someone named Jupiter North, and she has to undergo a couple of trials in order to earn a place at a magic school. And it was fun and whimsical when I read it, and I'm looking forward to diving back into it, specifically because I do want to read the rest of the series. So we have Wondersmith, The Calling of Morgan Crow, which is the second book, and Hollowpox, The Hunt for Morgan Crow, which is the third book. These are the UK editions, in case you're wondering why the covers look very different. But yeah, I'm excited to dive into this middle grade series yet again, and hopefully get caught up on it as well. Okay, your turn now.
My turn now. My comic book list, as you know, is lengthy and encapsulates most of the things that you can find on Comixology and Kindle Unlimited. But there are some actual releases I like, comics that I actually do collect and I just want on my digital library forever, wherever I go. And starting with The Old Guard, Tales Through Time, is finally going to end.
A new one.
It's with its 6th issue on September 15th, so definitely looking forward to that one. It's a story from the Old Guard thing. You see it, for those of you who might have seen it on Netflix, but it's actually a really, really great series about a bunch of immortals who sort of hide in the margins of society and come together every so often to sort of do good in the world. And I've not seen an immortal tale that didn't involve vampires. This is my real I just had to endure the fangs and the weird tension, and am I good? versus we're just gonna
like
live.
you said it in that exact word.
Well, you know, I don't know, like see the angel with the angel, you know, the vampire with a soul, and it's like Nick Knight from Forever Knight, you know, that whole, am I a creature of evil or am I an agent of good or am I both kind of thing, as opposed to we just don't die and we got to do something about our lives, which I feel is less, it's even more benign than sort of a Highlander where there can be only one. So Old Guard is pretty fun, and this is their stories prior to the main series that's happening here, so it's a lot of prequel-y, you know, tales, which is just so good. Which leads me to Sandman Act 2 on audio with Mr. James McAvoy as you know, Morpheus, the Dream King, is coming out September 22, and it's Act 2. Obviously Neil Gaiman has sanctioned this and has worked on this and is very sort of like involved. I with zero hate or shade, because I do love the Netflix cast coming up too. I will love to hear Kat Dennings as Death again, because I don't know, it just clicked for me. Like Neil Gaiman asked Kat Dennings of Two Broke Girls fame personally, and she's like, you remember what I sound like, right? And I was like, I don't care, I think it's cool. And if you just get that out of your head that it's Kat Dennings, she does a pretty good job to me personally, so I cannot wait for that. Lastly, but certainly not leastly, the ongoing saga of the new X universe is coming, and I would say the penultimate, if not necessarily the ultimate, highlight of the entire thing is coming up, and it's Reign of X Volume 4, and it's the Hellfire Gala, the red carpet edition that's coming out on September 29, and this is it. This is when the X-Men sort of invite the whole world to their gala, like the Met, but mutants, and like green carpet rather than red, because, you know, nature and life and stuff. And then they big reveals. I'm super spoiled already, which I'm half annoyed, but at the same time I'm like, that is dope, you know. So I in that you know, kind of like restrained enthusiasm, because big things are going to be revealed, and some really cool stuff is going to happen, and some really like mutants that I really love are going to get a spotlight that I'm just like, you're like the Beyonce of mutants, and so and rightfully so, and I love that. I love that incredibly, and we will put a ring on it. No, this is not a marriage, but isn't it, when you're committed to your country? So so coming up, so that's my comic. I'm just gonna babbling because I just can't wait for this gala. They've, by the way, they've already printed, and it's all out all over the internet. It's on memes everywhere, and if you're a part of any X-Men themed groups on Facebook, you'll find them. Just the dopest, glammiest costumes. Not even costumes, like actual, this is like my glam. All of the X-Men in glam wear. How fun. Evening glam wear. Storm's, like, Black Nerd Problems has a really fun take on what everyone's wearing. And Storm literally is wearing a shroud of like storm clouds. Love it. That's her like it's not cloth. This woman is coming in with an astro, you know, like your fanboy showing. This woman is coming in with a stratospheric like accoutrement type deal, and I just can't. I can't do that. Like I can't. It's your dream. It's my. I want to show up in my clouds. That's just like storm clouds, and I come in. I am king of the thunder things. That's why I'm not. But anyway, the last section of this video is dedicated to some manga reading. So first, we're going to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen. Yes, we should. Which we should. Shorter and still ongoing. Jujutsu Kaisen, we actually watched the first season of the anime and really enjoyed it more than we anticipated. Yeah, that's true, because it just almost felt like another one of those. All right, it's another shonen. Yeah, and it leans towards horror, which is not normally something I am into. Like Maggie, as you guys know, is very into that. So yeah, and here's the horror aspect of it, right? I mean, the premise is, you know, there's some cursed objects out there, and and just so happens that this particular high schooler has friends in an occult club, sure, that's what they led with, who just happen to have these cursed items, and and this particular cursed item is so powerful because they once belonged to this terrible, terrible demon, and anyone that has cursed items are going to get attacked. This little high school kid tries to save his friends, and in the process ends up ingesting said cursed items and becoming part of the underworld that tries to fight said curses and demons and whatever. So so that's a cute premise. It's time honored, very, you know, like you know, kick the tires of that and that'll fly. Yeah. Because that's what you do when you kick tires, and we like it. We like the series. Enjoy it. And I read Volume 0 actually. I've already read that one and it was good. So I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the series as well, especially because it's going to be a while before we get another season of the anime. Absolutely. Hopefully 2022. But to wrap things up,
we are actually going to both be reading Yona of the Dawn, which is by Mizuo Kusanagi. I am going to start over from volume 1 and just keep going. There are currently 31 volumes out, and I think the 32nd comes out in October, I want to say, so our timing would be just right if we got caught up on the series. The reason that we ended up picking up Yona is because I actually rewatched the anime recently with my friend Rachel. Fell in love with it all over again. It is still so good. And it still makes me so angry that we do not get a season 2.
And
it's very upsetting.
And even if technically they animated everything up to a certain manga, I think it's 7 or 8.
7.
Right? It's probably 7. There were still some little bits in there that they could have that happened a little bit after where they stopped. And I'm just upset. Like, we were so chipped.
I'm so upset. But anyway, this is the story of a princess named Yona. She lives a pretty sheltered life, and she's pretty naive growing up. And her dad is all about like peace and no wars, and you know, just making
path of least resistance, no conflict.
Until one night when her cousin
instigates a terrible coup.
Yeah, inadvertently instigates a coup, and Yona finds herself fleeing for her life with her trusted bodyguard Hack. And things kind of spiral from there when she eventually comes across a priest who tells her that the only way to save her kingdom, to get things back, is to find the 4 dragons of prophecy. And things kind of go on a spiral from there, and
it's a great
so good. Oh my god, it's so good.
It's this controlled spin of awesome.
Good.
And the whole, you know, me and my friend save the world thing, which is my deal, and then all of the pretty characters that are super strong and fun and lovable, nuanced and lovable for her.
It's great.
It's this loop of I like that too, she likes this too. It just goes.
So it all works out. So we're both planning to read everything and get caught up.
So far, yes. So I think there are about 31 volumes right now. Yeah. I am currently on. I'm just currently finished with 10. I have 11, 12, and 13, which I will blitz through.
I haven't started
soon.
Yet, but I will.
But the goal is pretty much to read all of Yona by
which we will.
It's totally doable. If somebody here read the entire Demon Slayer manga in one weekend, certainly Yona wouldn't be a problem.
Anyway, those are the things on our possibility pile for the month of September. Let us know if you plan to read any of them, or if you're joining any of those buddy reads that I mentioned that are being hosted by some of my friends. Or if you just want to talk about Yona, I mean, we're happy to do that too. Anyway, we are grateful that you guys are still watching our videos and supporting the channel. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, find us on all our other social media below, and we'll see you guys with a new video soon. Bye!
Bye.